Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to spend some of your time with me. Really appreciate that. And guys, today we're going to be talking about worm hooks. We're going to be talking about the two different styles of worm hooks and why you should get rid of this one style of worm hook, get them out of your boat, get them out of your box, start using this other style exclusively. And I'm going to explain to you in detail why that is. Now, we've touched upon this a little bit in some past videos, but I want to do a little bit more deeper dive and show you guys some rigging features on this, just basically to make my point, because I've learned the hard way. This is something that this isn't just some theory or opinion of mine. This is something that I have experimented with for decades, and I've come to the conclusion that one is much better than the other. So we're going to get into that in today's video. Also, guys, quick reminder, just want to let you know that we've only got a couple days left in the October sale on my solarbat series RB2 and RB3 series sunglasses. If you'd like to get a pair from solarbat, I'll put the link in the description, and you can get them at 20% off between now and the end of the month. So solarbat link in the description of the video here. Really appreciate that. Okay, two different styles of worm hooks, guys, that we're going to talk about here. Here is one of the things about it. First of all, I'm going to talk about the offset style hook. Now this, if you're not familiar with this, most of the people on the video are. An offset hook, the couple of different reasons people like it. It's got a large bite gap there, and it's got an offset hook there. Now the main reason, in my opinion, why people use this hook here, it's very user friendly. Now what I'm talking about that is when you rig your worm with an offset hook here, all you do is come through and you put it on that little offset bend, and it stays like that really good without moving. And then, you put it all the way through the worm, come out the back side of the worm here, and usually bury it in the back of the worm. Now, this is very easy to rig. This is why a lot of people use it, because it holds the worm really good. It holds the worm straight. It's really fast to do it. And it's just easy to use. A lot of people love it for that. Now, the other style is the straight shank worm hook. Just the old straight shank hook. It's been around forever. It's not quite as user friendly, and I'll show you a little bit why here, because when you rig a straight shank, even though that you do have a keeper on these Gamakatsus here, I'll show you, it's a little bit more difficult, because in terms of getting it straight, you don't have that natural bend there that keeps it straight for you. So you sort of have to do that for yourself. So a lot of people put the worm back in here like this, rig straight like that. Now the problem with this, with the straight shank, is, like I said, since you don't have that offset bend, and the only thing that holds it in place there is that keeper, sometimes this hook will slide up a little bit more than the offset. That's one of the reasons people don't like it. And another reason is people, when they hook a straight shank hook, they don't know how to hook it. And we're going to get into that in today's video. Okay, now first, before I get into the detail of the hook that you need to use, I'm going to show you the hook that you don't want to use. Guys, get rid of your offsets. These right here is not what you want to use. Now, the reason I say this, I have experimented for decades about this, and I've done extensive experiments on it in terms of the number of bites I get versus the number of fish that I land. And I can tell you definitively that I land 25% more bass on a straight shank hook than I do an EWG hook, by far. Now, there's a couple different reasons for this. A lot of it has to do with the way the worm or the creature bait lays when you rig it on an EWG hook. There's some correlation there between the way, let me rig it back up here and I'll show you. In my opinion, there's a correlation between the way that this bait is rigged in the worm or the creature bait, and when the bass hits it, in terms of the position that the hook is in the bass's mouth when you set the hook, and the fact that you have a lot of plastic. Even though it's a wide shank hook, you still have all this plastic that gets in the way of the hook here. So this is a strike deterrent right here in terms of landing. This is nothing but something that gets in your way here. But the overall design of the hook, you're going to lose 25% more bass on it than you will any other type of hook. Now, I'll tell you a story behind that before I get to it. But the straight shank hook, even though it's a little bit more harder to rig, the number of bites that you're going to land on this thing is far greater. Now, I'll give you a tip here. We've talked about this before, is never rig a straight shank hook like this where you put the hook back in the worm like that. You always want to rig your straight shank hook, and then you want to come through and just skin hook it in the side like that. Now this is something we've done on the videos before, so a lot of you guys have seen this, but some of you guys may haven't. But by skin hooking that in there, when you set the hook on this bait, it simply pops loose of there, and you don't have any worm whatsoever to impede the hooking ability of it. It's got a free solid hook there, and that's why you land 25%, more of the fish on it. Now, I'll tell you a little story about this. I was always in the past an offset hook user. When I was pitching and flipping with creature baits and worms, probably 90% of the time I used an offset hook. The only time that I didn't sometimes, if I was flipping and pitching, a mat with like a 1 ounce sinker, and I had to have that big, super heavy, extra heavy flipping hook in it. But anyway, I started, talking with, and I started watching Tommy Biffle. And Tommy Biffle used nothing but a straight shank hook in his Biffle bugs and that type of stuff. This has been a long time ago, 20, 25 years ago. And I started noticing the efficiency that Tommy had, and I started correlating that with how many fish that I lost on the EWG hook. Because on average, if I was in a tournament, and say a tournament day, if I got 15 bites flipping and pitching with a Texas rig on an EWG hook, I'd probably lose 5 of them. And I thought that was just sort of typical, for, fishing with an EWG hook, sometimes more. And I'd experimented with a straight shank hook before, but I couldn't get a feel. I didn't really like the way it looked or the way it laid in the boat until I started using this Finesse straight shank hook from Gamakatsu, guys. This hook right here is freaking unbelievable. Designed by Aaron Martins here. You can see my buddy Aaron on the package there. I'll include the link in the description for this particular hook if you guys want to get some through Tackle Warehouse. Put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description, you can get them. But anyway, when Gamakatsu came out with this nano-coated hook here, needle point on it, it's got this really nice 10 keeper on it. It held the worm a lot better, and I started switching to it, and my landing ratio, like I said, it went up 25%. I was landing for sure 25% more bass with the straight shank hook than I did the EWG. And there's no difference in my technique. I was using the same hook set, I was using the same rod, I was using the same fishing line, Seaguar and Vizex. The only thing I did different was I get rid of that EWG hook and went to the straight shank hook. And like I said, once that I figured out, how to rig that, determined about how to rig it on the side like that, my landing percentages just shot through the roof. So my advice, guys, I know a lot of you guys like this, and I've heard people say before, oh, Randy, I never miss bass on the EWG. Well, I find that hard to believe, or you're not catching a lot of bass to begin with. But get rid of these guys. If you have them, use them for practice, use them for fun fishing when you don't care if you're going to lose one or not, or sell them on eBay or whatever. And get you some of these Finesse straight shank worm hooks here, or whatever brand you use, Mustad or whatever, it doesn't matter. Just get you a straight shank hook. Going to add up to a lot more bass in the boat for you guys. So hope it helps out. We'll talk later.